Hey everyone! Tonight we're stepping back over 4,000 years to the sun-scorched banks of the Nile, where ancient Egypt thrived, a land of towering pyramids, divine pharaohs, and gods who seemed to have eyes on you at all times. But beneath the shimmering gold and sacred rituals, life was no stroll through a lotus garden. Ever wondered what it'd be like to live just one day in this legendary civilization? Spoiler alert, it's not all hieroglyphs and glamour. The desert sun is relentless, and survival is a daily quest. Before we dive in, if you love exploring history's hidden corners, give this video a thumbs up and hit subscribe. It really helps keep these stories coming. Drop a comment below to share where you're watching from and what time it is there. It's always incredible to connect with you all across the globe. Now, grab a cool drink, maybe turn on a fan for that gentle hum, and let's transport ourselves to ancient Egypt, a world of divine power, endless heat, and a river that's both lifeline and challenge. As dawn breaks, you're jolted awake by a blaze of sunlight piercing your reed and mud hut. Forget cozy curtains or a snooze button. There's no escaping the desert's morning glare. You're sprawled on a woven reed mat, a thin linen cloth offering little comfort against the prickly straw. The air is already thick with heat, pushing 85 degrees Fahrenheit before the roosters even think about crowing. Ancient Egypt didn't just feel the sun, it worshipped it as Ra, the all-seeing sun god whose rays were both a blessing and a trial. By 8 a.m., the temperature is climbing toward 95 degrees Fahrenheit, and your linen kilt, light and breezy as it sounds, is no match for the heat radiating from the sandy ground. Shade is a rare treasure in this landscape. Palm trees are sparse, and mud brick walls offer fleeting relief before they start baking like an oven's bricks. If you're a farmer or laborer, forget about fancy ointments or shade canopies reserved for the elite. Historical records show that wealthier Egyptians used oils infused with herbs like myrrh to protect their skin. But for you, your options are limited to slathering on river mud, or, brace yourself, animal fat mixed with ochre, a trick some laborers use to deflect the sun's wrath. It's not exactly a spa treatment, and it smells about as pleasant as you'd expect. The ground beneath your sandals, if you're lucky enough to have them, is hot enough to blister, and every step feels like a dance on a griddle. Complaining isn't an option. Ra's fierce heat was seen as a sign of his divine favor, a reminder that the gods are always watching. To survive the morning, you'll need water, resilience, and a grudging respect for the sun's unrelenting power. And trust me, this is just the start of your day. By late morning, you're desperate for relief, and the Nile, Egypt's beating heart, is your only hope. This mighty river, stretching over 4,000 miles and revered as the god Hapi's gift, is the reason Egypt flourished while other civilizations withered. But as you approach its banks, the romantic image of a serene, sparkling waterway fades fast. The air carries the sharp tang of fish, mud, and something suspiciously like decay. Flies swarm, frogs croak, and the occasional hippo lurks in the shallows, reminding you that the Nile is as dangerous as it is vital. Archaeological evidence suggests the river was a bustling hub. Farmers, fishermen, and families all shared its waters, alongside livestock and the occasional sacred ibis strutting like it owns the place. Bathing here is non-negotiable, but don't expect a luxurious dip. Soap is centuries away, so you scrub with coarse sand, a gritty ritual that leaves your skin raw but marginally cleaner. It's less self-care and more survival exfoliation. Laundry is another riverside chore, pounding your linen garments against rocks while keeping an eye out for crocodiles, which were both feared and revered as embodiments of the god Sobek. The Nile wasn't just a bath or laundry spot, it was a communal lifeline.
Men, women, and children splashed alongside grazing goats, and privacy was a foreign concept. You might spot a priest purifying himself for a temple ritual, but for most, it's a quick scrub before the sun turns the riverbank into a furnace. Water collection is another daily task. You fill heavy clay jars, balance them on your head or shoulder, and trek back to your mud brick home, praying the water stays cool. Historical texts describe how Egyptians used porous clay vessels to keep water fresh, but by midday, even those feel warm to the touch. The Nile's water wasn't always pristine. Upstream runoff from villages, fields, and even burial sites could taint it, yet it was still considered sacred. Every dip, every jar filled, is a blend of necessity and reverence, tying you to a river that's both a lifeline and a gamble. As you trudge home, the sun climbing higher, you're already bracing for the rest of the day's challenges in this ancient, unforgiving land.
By now, you're painfully aware that the Nile is more than a shimmering ribbon of life. It's a complex blend of sacred gift and unpredictable challenge. This river, revered as the god Hapi's divine embrace, irrigates fields, sustains villages, and carries the hopes of an entire civilization. But don't be fooled by its mythic status. Up close, it's a murky stew of silt, fish, and the occasional whiff of upstream waste. After your morning dip in its crocodile-patrolled waters, scrubbing with sand that feels like a punishment, your skin is raw, your tunic damp, and you're wondering if you're cleaner or just differently dirty. The Nile is Egypt's heartbeat, but it's also a gamble. Every splash risks leeches, every jar of water might carry unseen microbes. Yet without it, there's no crops, no food, no life. It's a paradox you can't escape, and it sets the tone for the rest of your day. With the morning heat already sapping your energy, it's time for breakfast. Not a leisurely brunch, but a bare-bones refueling to keep you moving. Picture yourself perched on a wobbly reed stool, or more likely, squatting in the dusty corner of your mud brick home. The star of the meal? Bread. Heavy as a brick and just as forgiving. Made from emmer wheat or barley, it's baked in communal clay ovens that double as a playground for adventurous rodents. Historical records reveal that grinding stones often left grit in the flour, so every bite comes with an unintentional crunch of sand. Think of it as ancient Egypt's version of extra minerals. Your teeth might not thank you, but it's sustenance. To wash it down, you've got beer. Not the refreshing kind you're imagining, but a thick, murky brew that's more like drinking oatmeal than sipping a lager. This liquid bread, fermented from barley and flavored with dates or herbs, was a staple for all ages, as archaeological finds of brewing vats confirm. It's calorie-dense, slightly sour, and safer than Nile water, thanks to the boiling process that kills off most parasites. If the gods are smiling, you might score a few dried figs or a pungent onion to add some flavor. Protein, like a sliver of Nile perch, is a rare treat, usually snatched up before it hits your plate. As you chew your gritty loaf and sip your grainy brew, flies treat your meal like their personal feast. Buzzing relentlessly, you swat them away, gulping down your breakfast with one goal: survival. This isn't about taste, it's about powering through another day under Ra's watchful glare. Breakfast is barely behind you.
It's time to face the real test: work. Unless you're one of the lucky few, a scribe penning papyrus or a priest chanting in a temple, your day is all sweat, dust, and back-breaking labor. For most, life in ancient Egypt meant manual toil that makes modern hustle seem like a vacation. If you're a farmer, you're wading through Nile-soaked mud by dawn, planting millet or pulling weeds with tools that haven't changed in centuries, wooden plows, flint sickles, and your own calloused hands. Overseers bark orders, their whips a grim reminder that slacking isn't an option. The fertile black silt, a gift of the Nile's annual floods, is why Egypt thrives, but working it feels like wrestling the river itself. If you're a laborer, your fate is even harsher. Picture dragging limestone blocks, some weighing over 2 tons, as seen in pyramid construction records, across scorching sand to build a temple or tomb. Barefoot, you navigate slippery ramps of packed earth, each step a gamble against injury. A twisted ankle means no work, and no work means no rations. Tomb builders face their own ordeal, chiseling intricate chambers deep in the Valley of the Kings, where one wrong strike could ruin a pharaoh's eternal resting place and earn you a one-way ticket to divine displeasure. Women, meanwhile, juggle relentless tasks, grinding grain into flour, a process so grueling it caused joint damage, as skeletal remains show, weaving linen, fetching water, and tending children, all while pitching in during harvest season. Breaks are a myth. Your only pause comes when exhaustion forces it. The sun, your unyielding taskmaster, dictates your rhythm. No clocks, no coffee runs, just the relentless arc of Ra across the sky. By dusk, you limp home, caked in dust, muscles screaming, dreaming of a softer mat or a kinder sun. Work in ancient Egypt isn't just a job. It's a full-body battle for survival, day after day, until the Nile's next flood or the gods decide your fate. And even then, muttering about the hardship isn't wise. Someone's always listening, be it an overseer or the divine powers above. As the sun climbs higher and your body aches from work, you might feel a fleeting urge to mutter, "This is miserable," or "Why am I even here?" Pause that thought. In ancient Egypt, grumbling isn't just bad manners, it's a dangerous flirtation with cosmic consequences. Your boss isn't some overseer with a clipboard. He's the pharaoh, the living incarnation of Horus, son of the sun god Ra. To the Egyptians, he's not just a ruler, but a divine conduit, tasked with upholding Ma'at, the sacred balance of order, truth, and harmony that keeps chaos at bay. If the Nile's floods bring fertile silt this year, the pharaoh's divine favor gets the credit. If drought strikes, well, maybe your prayers weren't fervent enough. Questioning his authority isn't just impolite, it's a direct challenge to the gods. Historical records, like those from the Middle Kingdom, show that dissent could lead to brutal punishments, floggings, forced labor, or worse, exile to the desert with no provisions. The pharaoh's image dominates every corner of life, etched on temple walls, stamped on clay seals, even carved into the bread molds that shape your daily loaf. These weren't mere decorations, they were propaganda, reinforcing his godlike status. As a commoner, you'll never meet him. The closest you'll get is glimpsing his golden barge during a festival like Opet, a fleeting shimmer before he retreats to a palace dripping with alabaster and guarded by scribes and soldiers. If you're toiling on a royal project, say hauling granite for a colossal obelisk, you're expected to beam with pride, or at least fake it. Admitting the work is grueling? That's a risk not worth taking. Rebellions were rare, but swiftly crushed. Texts from the New Kingdom describe villages that dared to withhold tribute being razed without mercy. In this world, loyalty to the pharaoh isn't just expected, it's survival. So, you swallow your complaints, bow your head, and keep hauling. Because in the eyes of the gods, you're privileged to labor in his name.
If the pharaoh's divine gaze feels oppressive, the sand is an even more persistent tormentor. In ancient Egypt, sand isn't just part of the landscape. It's an invasive force that infiltrates every moment of your day. It's in your food, your clothes, your home, even your dreams. Your linen kilt, light and ideal for the heat, is useless against the fine grains that slip through every weave, clinging to your sweat-soaked skin like an unwanted guest. Eating is a gritty ordeal. The bread you gnawed at breakfast, ground with stone querns, carries traces of silica that wear down your teeth. Archaeological studies of ancient Egyptian remains reveal molars ground flat from this unintentional abrasive, a testament to sand's role as an uninvited seasoning. Your mud brick home offers no refuge. With no glass in the windows, just open gaps for air, every breeze delivers a fresh dusting of sand. Your reed mat is more sandpit than bed, and your cooking pots collect dunes of their own. Footwear? If you're lucky, you've got reed sandals, stylish but flimsy, offering little protection from the scorching ground. Most go barefoot, their feet toughened but never immune to the constant abrasion. And then there are the sandstorms, sudden, blinding tempests that transform a clear day into a choking haze. Known as the Khamsin, these seasonal winds could whip up walls of dust, reducing visibility to nothing and leaving you coughing, blinking, and spitting grit. As if the desert itself is reminding you who's in charge. Sand doesn't just surround you, it becomes part of you, a relentless reminder of Egypt's unforgiving environment.
In ancient Egypt, religion isn't a sideline. It's the framework that shapes every aspect of existence. From your work to your meals to the way you tie your sandals, the gods are watching, and they have opinions. The pantheon, over 2,000 deities strong, governs everything. Farmers pray to Osiris for fertile fields. Artisans honor Ptah for skill, and everyone appeases Sekhmet to avoid disease. Your morning bath in the Nile? A ritual to purify yourself for the day's divine tasks. The bread you eat? Blessed in the name of Ra to sustain you for his service. Even your work, whether hauling stones or weaving linen, is an offering to maintain Ma'at, the cosmic order. Temples dominate the landscape, their massive pylons etched with scenes of gods and pharaohs, and priests perform daily rituals to ensure the sun rises and the Nile flows. As a commoner, your role is simpler, but no less sacred. Live in harmony with the divine will. Before bed, you might whisper a prayer to Bes, the protector god, to guard your home from evil spirits. Every action, no matter how mundane, is infused with spiritual weight, because in Egypt, the gods aren't distant. They're as ever-present as the sand in your sandals. The gods aren't just a Sunday sermon. They're the rhythm of your existence, woven into every breath and step. Your village hums with temples dedicated to a sprawling pantheon, each deity overseeing a slice of life's chaos. Ra, the sun god, steers his fiery chariot across the sky, ensuring the world doesn't plunge into darkness. Thoth, the ibis-headed scribe of wisdom, tracks the moon's cycles and inspires the meticulous work of scribes. Sobek, the crocodile god with a fearsome grin, patrols the Nile's depths, while Bastet, the feline protector, guards homes with her quiet grace. Every moment is a chance to honor them, or risk their wrath. Wake up, offer thanks to Ra for the dawn. Spill a sip of beer for Hathor before breakfast. Stub your toe, mutter softly, lest a vengeful spirit takes note.
Meals begin with a small offering, a pinch of bread or a date placed before a household shrine to ensure divine favor. At night, you whisper prayers to ward off Set, the god of storms and disorder, who might stir trouble while you sleep. Even death is no escape. The afterlife, as described in texts like the Book of the Dead, is a high-stakes journey. Your heart is weighed against the feather of Maat, the embodiment of truth and order. If it tips the scale, burdened by deceit, or, say, swiping your neighbor's grain, you face Ammit, a monstrous blend of crocodile, lion, and hippo ready to devour your soul. Yet this intricate belief system isn't a burden, it's a lifeline. Upholding Maat through rituals promises a serene eternity with loved ones, fields, and even a boat for celestial sailing. Wealthy elites, with their lavish tomb goods, had a clearer path to divine favor. But for you, a farmer or weaver, faith is a daily grind of offerings and hope, a sacred contract that binds your life to the God's will. By midday, maybe you've stepped on a jagged reed or caught a fever from the Nile's murky embrace. Welcome to a typical day in ancient Egypt. Time to seek healing, but don't expect a clean clinic or a soothing wait. Medicine here blends cutting-edge skill with mystical rituals, a dance of science and faith. Egyptian physicians, among the ancient world's best, wielded bronze scalpels and papyrus texts like the Edwin Smith Papyrus, which detailed treatments for fractures and wounds with startling precision. But every remedy comes with a spiritual twist. A wound might be treated with a salve of honey, naturally antibacterial, as modern science confirms, and moldy bread, an early nod to penicillin-like properties. Before it's applied, though, the healer chants to Sekhmet, goddess of healing and destruction, to ward off malevolent forces. A throbbing headache? Expect a poultice of crushed garlic smeared on your temples, paired with a hymn to Thoth for clarity. Chest pain? A mix of dates and animal fat might be slathered on, with a prayer to Imhotep, the deified physician. Eye infections? Call for a bizarre blend of ochre, beer, and perhaps a dash of bat blood. Horus's protection is non-negotiable. Surgery, though rare, happens. Abscesses are drained, broken bones set, and wounds stitched with linen thread. But there's no numbing agent, just a friend's firm grip and a cloth to bite down on. Dentistry is even grimmer. The sand in your daily bread grinds your teeth to stubs by your 20s, as skeletal remains show. An infected molar? Your choices are endure the pain, risk a fatal abscess, or face extraction with crude tools that make a blacksmith's hammer look precise. And always, an amulet, carved with Bes or Anubis, dangles around your neck, insurance against unseen spirits lurking in your ailment. Egyptian medicine is a marvel, but it leans heavily on faith, where every bandage is a prayer and every cure a divine favor. Here's a revelation that might surprise you. Ancient Egyptian women held more rights than many of their counterparts in later eras. Unlike in some ancient societies, women in Egypt could own property, initiate divorces, and even manage businesses, as legal papyri from the New Kingdom reveal. A woman could inherit land, trade goods, or oversee a household's finances without a male guardian. In court, her testimony carried equal weight to a man's, a rarity in the ancient world. Priestesses served in temples, wielding spiritual authority, while women like Hatshepsut, a female pharaoh, proved women could command divine power. Yet, don't mistake this for equality. Most women still toiled, grinding grain, weaving linen, or balancing water jars, while juggling childcare and fieldwork. Their freedoms were real, but bound by the same relentless demands of survival that defined every Egyptian's life. Still, in a world ruled by gods and pharaohs, these rights were a flicker of agency, a testament to Egypt's complex social fabric. In ancient Egypt, women enjoyed freedoms that might make other ancient societies blush. Legal papyri from the New Kingdom show they could own land, run businesses, sue a man in court, or even dissolve a marriage without losing their status. That's right, women weren't just appendages of their husbands. They kept their inheritance and held their own in legal disputes. But before you start dreaming of a time-traveling feminist utopia, let's ground that vision in reality. If you're a woman in ancient Egypt, your day begins before Ra's first rays, hunched over a stone quern, grinding barley into flour until your shoulders scream. Then it's a trek to the Nile for water, cooking flatbreads, tending to children, feeding goats, and, if the harvest demands it, joining the men in the fields. You're a multitasking dynamo, draped in a linen shift that's more necessity than luxury. Childbirth is a gamble, guided by midwives who rely on incense, prayers, and experience, but no painkillers or sterile tools. You labor in a stifling room, hoping the gods like Bes or Teweret grant a safe delivery. Fashion offers little reprieve. Your linen dress is airy, but leaves you exposed. No undergarments, no sturdy shoes, just bare feet against scalding sand and a swarm of flies treating you like a feast. Cosmetics, a cultural staple, are a small joy. Kohl eyeliner and malachite eyeshadow, applied with bone or reed sticks, as archaeological finds confirm. But the lead-based pigments come with risks modern dermatologists would shudder at. If you're wealthy, life softens. You might read, manage estates, or serve as a priestess in Hathor's temple. Figures like Hatshepsut, who ruled as pharaoh, or Cleopatra, with her razor-sharp intellect and iconic style, prove women could wield divine power. Yet, for most, legal rights don't erase the grind. You're free to own land, but still elbow-deep in dough, swatting flies off your children, bound by the relentless demands of survival. You've endured another punishing day. Gritty bread, heavy water jars, and the ever-watchful sun. Now, as night falls, you might hope for rest. But in ancient Egypt, the real challenge looms after death, a daunting, bureaucratic odyssey through the underworld. Death isn't a curtain call, it's the opening act of a cosmic trial. Your soul arrives at the Hall of Ma'at, facing a tribunal of 42 gods, each scrutinizing your life's deeds.
Here you recite a litany of denials, the negative confession from the Book of the Dead, swearing you never stole, lied, or, say, sabotaged a neighbor's irrigation ditch. Every word matters. A single misstep could unravel your case. Next comes the ultimate test. Your heart, the seat of your conscience, is weighed against the feather of Ma'at, symbolizing truth and justice. If it balances, you're deemed worthy. If it sinks, laden with guilt or greed, you meet Amit, a fearsome beast blending crocodile jaws, lion's strength, and hippo's bulk. She doesn't judge, she devours, erasing your soul from existence. For a culture obsessed with immortality, this eternal void is the ultimate terror. Pass the test, though, and you enter the field of reeds, an idyllic afterlife mirroring Egypt's lush Nile banks, complete with crops, loved ones, and endless serenity. To boost your odds, Egyptians relied on the Book of the Dead, a papyrus guide packed with spells and advice. Think of it as a spiritual playbook. Wealthy elites filled their tombs with goods, from Shahabti figurines to boats, ensuring comfort in eternity. For you, a commoner, it's about living righteously. Pay your temple dues, honor the gods, and avoid cursing Sobek's crocodiles. In Egypt, every choice echoes into eternity, and one wrong move could make you Amit's next meal. If there is a sliver of relief in ancient Egypt's relentless demands, it's the linen that drapes your body. Woven from flax, it's light, breathable, and a rare ally against the desert's heat. But don't expect much else. Comfort is fleeting when sand and survival are your constant companions.
Your wardrobe is a study in simplicity and survival. Crafted entirely from flax-derived linen, a fabric so light it feels like a whisper against the desert's relentless heat. This is the silver lining. The downside? It's your only line of defense, and it's barely enough. Men wear a simple kilt or loincloth, skimming the knees, while women wear sleeveless, straight-cut dresses, sometimes secured with narrow straps. If you're wealthy, your linen might boast intricate pleats or embroidered beads, as seen in tomb paintings of elites. For the rest, it's plain, slightly dingy from Nile washes, and worn daily, your one-size-fits-all uniform for life's grind. Laundry means scrubbing in the Nile's murky waters, dodging hippos, and hoping your garment survives the rocks. Most go barefoot, their soles toughened against scorching sand and the occasional sharp pebble. Sandals, woven from reeds or, for the privileged, leather, are rare, reserved for priests entering sacred temples or festival days. Accessories serve a purpose beyond style. Amulets carved with scarabs or the Eye of Horus dangle from necks, offering protection from evil spirits, as archaeological finds confirm. Kohl eyeliner, made from ground relina, doubles as sun glare protection and a supposed guard against eye infections, a practical flourish. But no amount of elegance stops the onslaught of flies, gnats, and mosquitoes, which treat your linen as an open invitation. Perfumed oils like those infused with myrrh offer fleeting relief, but by midday your tunic clings like a damp veil, and the bugs remain undeterred. Egypt's climate knows no mercy. Whether it's a blistering 110 degrees Fahrenheit, 43 degrees Celsius, afternoon, or a cool 70 degrees Fahrenheit, 21 degrees Celsius, evening, your linen is your only armor, elegant but woefully outmatched by sand, heat, and relentless insects. You've battled through another punishing day, hauling stones, dodging dust clouds, and keeping your linen intact. But in ancient Egypt, every day survived is a victory, because longevity is a rare prize.
Life expectancy hovers around 30 to 35 years, with childhood a perilous hurdle. Medical texts like the Ebers Papyrus suggest infant mortality was staggeringly high, with many succumbing to infections or malnutrition. If you reach your teens, you're thrust into adulthood, married by 13 or 14, working fields or weaving linen, and raising children while the sun still burns. Death lurks in everyday risks: an infected cut from a reed, a scorpion's sting, childbirth complications, or even spoiled food from a Nile-side market. Medicine, while advanced for its time, relies on honey salves, herbal concoctions, and prayers to Sekhmet, effective sometimes, but no match for a raging fever.
Yet Egyptians faced mortality with defiance, planning for death with the precision of a royal architect. The wealthy commissioned elaborate tombs, a scene in the Valley of the Kings, stocked with treasures, jewelry, pottery, perfumed oils, and shabti figurines, miniature servants crafted to toil in the afterlife, as evidenced by thousands found in burials. Embalming was an art. Priests used natron salt to preserve bodies, wrapping them in linen and sealing them in vibrant sarcophagi, guided by rituals from the Book of the Dead. This text, a spiritual roadmap, offered spells to navigate underworld trials and evade soul-devouring demons. For the poor, burial was simpler: a shallow desert grave, a threadbare linen wrap, and perhaps a clay vessel as a humble offering. Yet rich or poor, all clung to the same dream: the field of reeds, an eternal paradise of lush fields and gentle breezes, where hunger and toil vanish. Death wasn't feared, but embraced as a gateway, provided you lived righteously and honored the gods. Your body now rests in its tomb, be it a grand crypt or a sandy pit, but your journey is far from over. The Book of the Dead outlines a perilous path through the underworld, where spells and offerings ensure safe passage to the field of reeds. Every prayer, every amulet, every moment of your life was a step toward this eternal reward, a testament to Egypt's unyielding belief in a life beyond the grave. You're finally laid to rest, your body meticulously embalmed, wrapped in linen, and tucked into a tomb with treasures for the afterlife. Gold amulets, fragrant oils, carved figurines, and, if you're a pharaoh, a dazzling array of riches, including full-sized boats for celestial voyages, as seen in Khufu's solar barge discovery. But don't get too comfortable. In ancient Egypt, even death doesn't guarantee peace. Tombs were treasure troves, and that made them irresistible targets. Grave robbery wasn't just a crime, it was a persistent crisis. Pharaohs buried their wealth in hidden desert crypts, sealed with stone slabs and inscribed with dire warnings, like curses of scorpions or eternal torment by fiery spirits. The tomb robbery papyri from the New Kingdom revealed just how rampant the problem was, detailing trials of thieves, some of whom were corrupt workers or even priests who knew the tomb's secrets.
Punishments were brutal: public floggings, severed hands, or banishment to the desert's edge. Yet the rewards often outweighed the risks. Gold, myrrh, and fine linens could fetch a fortune, enough to transform a thief's life. Even humble graves weren't safe. Commoners, buried with a clay pot of grain or a simple bead necklace, were targets too. In times of famine or upheaval, like the chaotic end of the New Kingdom, desperate villagers might raid a tomb not for wealth, but for survival. seeing a loaf of funerary bread as a meal for their starving families. The irony is stark. In a culture obsessed with eternal rest, your tomb could be ransacked, your name erased, and your mummy left exposed by someone with a pickaxe and a pressing need. In ancient Egypt, peace after death was a privilege, not a promise, reserved for those whose graves stayed hidden from prying eyes. Picture the walls of a temple or tomb, adorned with intricate carvings, falcons, ankhs, reeds, and figures striding as if posing for eternity. These are hieroglyphs, ancient Egypt's mesmerizing writing system, equal parts art and enigma. Far from mere decoration, hieroglyphs were a complex script with over 700 symbols, as documented in Middle Kingdom texts. Some stood for whole words, others for sounds, and determinatives clarified meaning, like a star symbol to signal sky. No spaces, no punctuation, just a flowing stream of signs that could run left to right to left, or top to bottom, depending on the scribe's whim. The key: watch the direction of the figures. Birds facing left mean read left. Snakes facing right mean read right. Upside-down symbols? You're on your own. Reading and writing hieroglyphs was a rare skill, reserved for an elite few. Estimates suggest only 1 to 2% of Egyptians were literate, based on surviving texts and scribal records. Becoming a scribe was the golden ticket, a path to prestige that spared you from hauling limestone in the desert sun. Training began in childhood, with years spent memorizing symbols, copying papyri, and mastering texts like temple hymns or tax ledgers. Scribes were the backbone of society, recording everything from grain quotas to royal decrees, their inked reed pens wielding quiet power. For the average Egyptian, hieroglyphs were more than writing. They were sacred, believed to carry divine energy. A carved name could preserve a soul forever. A miswritten spell could unleash chaos. In a world where words held magic, scribes were gatekeepers of knowledge, their work a bridge between the mortal and the divine.
In ancient Egypt, writing someone's name in hieroglyphics was more than a record. It was a lifeline to eternity. Carving a name on a tomb or stela ensured the soul's survival. Erasing it was spiritual erasure, a fate worse than death. Hieroglyphs, with their intricate birds, eyes, and reeds, weren't just art or ancient emojis. They were a complex code blending myth, language, and divine power. With over 700 symbols, as documented in scribal texts, they demanded years of study to master. Each sign carried weight: a lotus for rebirth, a scarab for transformation. Miswrite a spell, and you might anger a god or doom a soul. For the 1 to 2% of Egyptians who could read, as estimated from surviving papyri, hieroglyphs were a sacred craft, a puzzle of meaning that held the cosmos together. For everyone else, they were a glimpse of the divine, a reminder that words could shape eternity. So, could you endure a single day in ancient Egypt? Let's be real, probably not. It's tempting to romanticize the land of pharaohs, golden sarcophagi, lotus-perfumed breezes, and temples etched with divine stories. But the reality was a gauntlet of grit and grind. Your day begins on a reed mat, swarmed by flies, with the Nile's muddy scent as your alarm clock. You trudge barefoot across scalding sand, hauling water or stone, cooking over smoky fires, and dodging snakes that might slither into your bed.
Disease looms, malaria from mosquitoes, infections from cuts, or childbirth risks with no modern medicine. You have no toothpaste, no bandages, no weekends. Your linen kilt, though breezy, is your only shield against heat that hits 110 degrees Fahrenheit or 43 degrees Celsius and sand that invades everything. Life was dictated by a god-king whose decrees could strip you of land, a climate that baked you by noon, and a religion that demanded perfection to pass the afterlife's trials. You lacked antibiotics, sunscreen, plumbing, or privacy. Social mobility? A myth. You were born a farmer, weaver, or laborer, and that was your fate. Unless death claimed you first, likely before 35, as skeletal studies suggest.
Yet, Egyptians thrived in this harsh world, their lives infused with purpose. They sang at festivals, danced to harps, and built pyramids that defy time. Their faith in Maat and the field of reeds gave meaning to every hardship. For a modern person, accustomed to air conditioning, clean water, and painkillers, a single sandstorm or fever would be your undoing. Ancient Egyptians didn't just survive, they built a civilization that echoes millennia later, a testament to their resilience. Now, let's shift gears to a different ancient world, far from the Nile's banks. Teotihuacan, the sprawling city in ancient Mesoamerica, known as the place where the gods were born. Here, one monument stands apart, the Temple of the Feathered Serpent, dedicated to Quetzalcoatl, the deity of wind and wisdom. Unlike Egypt's reverend shrines, this temple exudes menace. Its facade bristles with stone serpent heads, their jaws agape, fangs gleaming as if poised to strike. These aren't mere carvings, they're warnings, symbols of divine power and cosmic retribution. Archaeological excavations, particularly in the 1980s, uncovered a chilling secret beneath the temple's base. Not just offerings of jade or obsidian, but over 200 human remains, many young men, likely warriors, with hands bound and signs of ritual sacrifice. Some were buried with obsidian blades or necklaces of human teeth, arranged with precise symbolism. A deliberate act, not a chaotic grave. This was no ordinary temple, but a stage for power, where rulers blended cosmology, warfare, and fear to govern a city of over 100,000. The sacrifices, as Mesoamerican scholars suggest, were likely offerings to appease Quetzalcoatl or ensure cosmic balance, tying blood to the god's favor. Standing before those snarling serpents today, you feel their gaze, not just art, but a testament to a society where faith demanded the ultimate price. Unlike Egypt's afterlife trials, Teotihuacan's rituals were visceral, public, and carved into the very stones that still stand.
You're staring down a society convinced that the heavens craved human essence and they felt fully entitled to provide it. But who exactly were these enigmatic figures? Who orchestrated this ritual brutality and then faded into obscurity? The clues hide in the ruins of Teotihuacan. Long before the Aztecs dominated with their eagle warriors, or the Maya etched their star-aligned prophecies, an unparalleled urban center arose in the ancient Americas, Teotihuacan. Dubbed by the Aztecs as the spot where deities first emerged, this place reveals its aura when you tread its vast Avenue of the Dead, lined by colossal structures that pierce the clouds, evoking a sense of otherworldly purpose. During its prime, from roughly 100 to 650 CE, Teotihuacan sprawled as a vibrant hub for 125,000 to 200,000 residents, ranking among the globe's biggest settlements, on par with imperial Rome, bustling Alexandria, or expansive Chang'an in scope and reach. This was no haphazard sprawl, but a masterfully engineered domain. Broad avenues laid in grids, sturdy streets paved with lime plaster, communal living blocks for kin groups, and towering edifices built from local basalt. Dominating the skyline were three grand monuments: the Pyramid of the Moon, the Pyramid of the Sun, and the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. Yet, what sets Teotihuacan apart is the veil of secrecy around its creators. To this day, archaeologists puzzle over the identity of its founders. We lack any self-given title for these inhabitants or the metropolis itself. No inscriptions survive, no royal lineages boast on monuments. It appears Teotihuacan operated under a collective leadership, maybe a priestly assembly or a spiritual oligarchy, defying our typical views of prehistoric hierarchies. Even in anonymity, their sway was immense. Traces of Teotihuacan's dominance appear across vast distances, from Maya strongholds like Tikal and Copan to the remote Zapotec hub of Monte Alban. Items like sharpened obsidian tools, distinctive pottery designs, wall paintings, and hints of diplomatic intrigue tell the story. For instance, recent digs in 2025 uncovered a painted altar at Tikal, styled in Teotihuacan fashion, suggesting envoys from the city may have engineered a coup against a Maya leader to seat a more aligned successor, securing trade alliances.
So, how did they sustain this far-flung web? How could a place without a deciphered script exert such dominance over Mesoamerica? The key seems rooted in blending celestial philosophy with savvy governance. Their shrines weren't mere holy sites, they functioned as instruments of authority, tuned to stellar alignments, staging ceremonial killings, and impressing upon locals and outsiders alike that Teotihuacan wasn't just a settlement, it was the world's pivot point, a holy mechanism synchronizing cycles of existence, destiny, and vital offerings. At the core of this system loomed the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. To grasp its essence, you need to explore the god it honored, the Feathered Serpent. Later revered by the Aztecs as Quetzalcoatl and by the Maya as Kukulkan, this entity ranks among the most puzzling divinities in Mesoamerican lore. But in Teotihuacan, predating those cultures by centuries, the feathered serpent already held a pivotal, perhaps dominant, sacred position. Consider the riddle. What deity merges the traits of a reptile and an avian? Ponder it. Reptiles crawl the depths, molting to evoke renewal, contradiction, and mortality.
avians glide aloft, near the solar realm, embodying liberty, sanctity, and nurturing breezes. Fusing these, grounded and aerial, demise and vitality, turmoil and equilibrium, forged a profoundly universal force, one awesomely formidable. The feathered serpent transcended deity status. It served as a conduit linking realms. Etched boldly on the temple's exterior, we find scores of its depictions: wide-staring orbs, exposed fangs, feathered crowns. Some experts see these as the god incarnate. Others view them as fighters or ritual leaders cloaked in holy attire to assert dominance. Regardless, they dominate the scene. The edifice brims with these reptile-avian fusions, as though the building pulses with supernatural energy. Still, the feathered serpent wasn't confined to celestial roles. It was deeply linked to rites of offering. Vital fluid powered the universe's rhythm, and Quetzalcoatl, often portrayed in later tales as a benevolent innovator, played a far grimmer part in Teotihuacan. It called for tributes, not merely grains or resins, but existence. Legends recount its plunge into the netherworld to gather ancestral remnants and forge humanity. Yet to summon vitality from oblivion, a bargain was essential. In the ancient Mesoamerican worldview, the immortals offered their own life force to ignite humanity's spark, and people were obligated to reciprocate. The temple of the feathered serpent went beyond a shrine of devotion. It operated as a stellar apparatus, weaving together the celestial expanse, the terrestrial plane, and the shadowy abyss via ceremonial endowments. Each carved block, protruding reptile form, and entombed figure fueled this intricate network. Teotihuacan's inhabitants didn't simply revere the feathered serpent, they lived out its principles, its dualities, its dominance, and its call for essential offerings. Yet the most harrowing insights lay concealed underground. Over generations, the temple of the feathered serpent endured as a faded colossus, partly engulfed by the ages, with nearby communities sharing folklore and researchers proposing theories. But the ground yielded its secrets during excavations in the late 1980s and 2000s, exposing revelations that shook expectations. Below the temple's stacked foundations stretched hidden compartments and hollows, each containing precisely organized skeletal remnants. These weren't disordered traces of battle or plague. They were purposeful immolations, organized and dispassionate. The count surpassed 200 souls, mainly males, aged between 15 and 25, as osteological studies reveal. Some bore pendants crafted from human mandibles, others showed restrained limbs. Several had been severed at the neck. Gleaming obsidian edges, dark and pristine, lay close by, evident implements of ceremonial dispatch. The positioning adhered to structured layouts and emblematic designs. Remains weren't haphazardly placed, but grouped into segments tied to compass points, likely reflecting universal harmony. The tally carried weight, transforming mere mortality into purposeful transition. Accompaniments encircled the departed: feline remains, coiled motifs, rare mollusks from Pacific shores, small carvings, and blades untouched by warfare. This wasn't retribution, it was an endowment. These youths, probably fighters from afar, as strontium isotope analysis suggests foreign origins, were chosen not for humiliation, but for elevation into a greater narrative. For Teotihuacan society, constructing such a monument seemingly necessitated human consecration, as if each level demanded a vital infusion to ascend. The further investigators probed, the denser the layers of tribute became. One vault uncovered intricate passageways, laced with liquid mercury and reflective mica, elements evoking nether realms, their surfaces once sparkling like fluid mirrors. Was this an allegorical nod to the afterlife, a celestial echo? As digs progressed, the structure seemed less directed upon mortality and more engineered to envelop it. The essence didn't mar the masonry unintentionally. The masonry was built to contain the essence, dedicated wholly to the immortals.
Help people to sleep. Peer deeper at the temple of the feathered serpent, and a peculiar accuracy unfolds. It doesn't merely rest on the terrain, it harmonizes with the stars. Teotihuacan's design was no whim. The urban expanse followed exact astral orientations. Its main thoroughfare, the Avenue of the Dead, skews 15.5 degrees from due north, not oversight, but intentional, perhaps to match the Pleiades' descent or solar placements on pivotal sacred occasions, as lake sediment cores and astronomical models indicate. The temple anchors this route, embedding it within a vast stellar framework. Why this exact configuration? What heavenly signals did it seek? Generations of scholars in ancient astronomy have sparred over it. Some posit ties to equinox dawns, where light plays across facades in dramatic patterns. Others connect it to Venus, a revered sphere in Mesoamerican thought, linked to strife, tribute, and revival. Its cycles prompting conflicts, oblations, and shrine ignitions. The temple's scale reflects purpose. Echoes of seven, mirroring observable celestial orbs, recur in its layered rises. There's equilibrium, pulse, and an astonishing command of grounded computations and astral patterns. Below ground, further hints emerged. In 2013, with initial probes in 2003 via radar, explorers revealed a corridor, not a rough burrow, but a crafted hidden domain. Its barriers once gleamed with pyrite flecks, evoking constellations, paired with mercury reservoirs and oriented surfaces, mimicking the universe's expanse. Traversing it might evoke a stellar trek, an emblematic voyage to the abyss or resurgence. Could this edifice function as an astral device, a gateway uniting terrain, firmament, and ethereal zones? Experts propose Teotihuacan perceived existence as looping, not sequential. Each observation, structure, and tribute contributed to a perpetual spiral. Demise sparking resurgence, oblation kindling revival. The temple's orientations likely facilitated forecasting stellar shifts, aligning agriculture, and, crucially, scheduling essential gifts. The temple of the feathered serpent didn't just gaze at the cosmos, it aimed to converse with it. The temple of the feathered serpent extended beyond a holy landmark. It served as a governance tool. Its architecture was crafted to subdue, to daunt, to impress upon every spectator, resident, or traveler who wielded control in Teotihuacan. Imagine approaching its silhouette 1,800 years back. As an outsider from a modest domain, you'd traverse the Avenue of the Dead, already overwhelmed by the urban magnitude. But at the temple you'd pause. Reptilian carvings fixate, teeth gleaming. Feline icons rumble from the rock.
The adjacent courtyard accommodated vast throngs, not only for festivities, but for communal rites. You might observe an immolation firsthand.
Teotihuacan's overseers grasped an essential insight. Reverence breeds command. Nothing incites trepidation like sacred fury. By directing public dispatches under open skies, amid stellar icons and mortal themes, they conveyed an unequivocal statement. The immortals align with us, and we boldly nourish them. Yet this was a scripted display. Officiants in plumed adornments and volcanic glass coverings would recite, move rhythmically, and liberate essence, converting legend into civic spectacle. It surpassed divine appeasement. It affirmed that the leadership possessed sole conduits to the sacred. They could invoke deluges, shield societies, or obliterate adversaries. The layout bolstered this messaging. From raised platforms, authorities overlooked the space. They shaped not merely the tale, but the venue itself. Assemblies peered upward at immortals, commanders, and rites, confirming their positions. For visitors, Teotihuacan subdued without weaponry via emblems. Delegates returned with narratives of wonder and dread, recounting serpentine shapes, boundless routes, and crimson ceremonies that dyed the firmament. In an epoch where divinities commanded via alarm, Teotihuacan asserted itself as their envoy, with the Temple of the Feathered Serpent as the most commanding declaration. In its prime, Teotihuacan throbbed as Mesoamerica's nucleus, a domain of blaze and rock, of divinities and tribute, appearing timeless. But near 550 CE, shifts occurred, harmony fractured, and the ensuing hush proved as ominous as the temple's sculpted guardians. Teotihuacan's end wasn't a resounding triumph. It unfolded slowly, then explosively. Markers of tension surfaced years before, indicating the stellar apparatus was sputtering. Findings suggest extended dryness, harvest shortfalls, and communal discord. The mechanisms propping this magnificence, focused authority, spiritual supremacy, universal balance, fractured under duress. Then flames consumed it. Excavations expose broad char residues across noble enclaves, shrines, and governance halls, with traces of forceful ruin at the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. Curiously, humbler living zones remained largely intact. This wasn't foreign assault. It was an internal revolt, a surge of defiance, likely from the populace. The very crowds that once stood in awe of blood-soaked rituals may have turned against their sacred overseers. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent, a beacon of divine dominion, was ravaged, its carvings defaced, flames licking its stones, holy spaces profaned. Teotihuacan didn't vanish in a single night, but its spirit withered. Trade routes frayed, artisans fell silent, grand ceremonies ceased, and the ruling elite faded into shadow.
By 550 to 650 CE, as lake sediment cores and tree ring data confirm, prolonged droughts and crop failures strained the city's cosmic machinery. Social unrest simmered and then erupted. Archaeological evidence reveals burn marks across elite compounds and temples, including the Temple of the Feathered Serpent. Yet humbler neighborhoods remained largely unscathed, a sign of internal upheaval, not foreign conquest. The city's pulse faltered, its once vibrant voice reduced to a ghostly hush. Centuries later, around the 14th century, the Aztecs wandered into the Valley of Mexico and encountered Teotihuacan's weathered bones. They stood awestruck before its towering pyramids, convinced only gods could have wrought such wonders, naming it Teotihuacan, the place where gods were born. They wove its ruins into their own mythology, venerating the site as hallowed ground. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent wasn't a mere relic to them. It was a testament to divine truth, its serpent carvings whispering of eternal power. Yet the irony persists. A city that once commanded Mesoamerica left no written record, no name for its builders, only enduring stones and unanswered questions. The gods, it seemed, had fallen silent. For over a millennium, the Temple of the Feathered Serpent slumbered beneath dust and volcanic ash, avoided by locals and skirted by farmers. The modern era of archaeology rekindled its story, beginning with early 20th century Mexican excavations that revealed a meticulously planned metropolis predating the Aztecs by centuries. The temple's deepest secrets emerged between 1988 and 2015, with pivotal finds in 2011 to 2013, when INAH archaeologists, using ground-penetrating radar, uncovered a sealed passageway beneath the structure, closed off around 200 CE, as if to guard its sanctity forever. This wasn't a simple tunnel, but a crafted underworld, its walls dusted with pyrite to shimmer like a starry vault, its floor dotted with mercury pools evoking primordial waters. Thousands of artifacts filled the space: jade figurines, rubber spheres, obsidian blades, and wooden masks adorned with shell inlays, as detailed in excavation reports. This wasn't a burial, but a message, and ritual stage for initiations, perhaps, or a symbolic womb where divine order was forged, as scholars like Saburo Sugiyama suggest. The mercury, once deemed merely hazardous, likely represented a liminal veil between realms. Amid these treasures, the feathered serpent's presence lingered, in murals, carvings, and the temple's very geometry, coiled within the city's core, awaiting rediscovery. Even with X-rays, drones, and radar, the Temple of the Feathered Serpent guards its mysteries. Each unearthed jawbone, gilded ornament, or sacrificial blade draws us closer to its truth, etched not in words, but in stone, blood, and shadow. The temple stands today as more than a relic. It's a testament to a worldview that fused power, cosmos, and mortality into an unyielding system. Tourists capture its image, children dart past its snarling serpent heads, but the earth beneath holds over 200 documented sacrifices, each a silent story of devotion and dread. The feathered serpent spirit didn't fade with Teotihuacan. Its myth evolved, adopted by the Toltecs, and reborn among the Aztecs as Quetzalcoatl, the deity of wisdom and wind. In Aztec lore, he softened into a figure who mourned humanity's cost, promising return, a stark contrast to his blood-soaked role in Teotihuacan, as seen in codices like the Codex Borgia. This transformation shows myths don't perish, they reshape. Even today, Quetzalcoatl's echo resonates in Mexican art, murals, and national identity,
a thread weaving through centuries. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent remains a haunting monument, not just to a lost civilization, but to a way of seeing the world where sacrifice fueled the stars, and the divine still speaks through stone. The Temple of the Feathered Serpent has transcended its ancient origins, its image etched onto modern Mexican coins, postage stamps, and civic halls, a symbol of pre-Columbian genius and the untamed spiritual fervor that once coursed through Mesoamerica. Yet its legacy carries a heavier weight, one that probes uncomfortable truths. The temple compels us to grapple with profound questions. How far will we stretch to touch the divine? What happens when sacred belief and earthly power blur into one? Can splendor coexist with horror? More than a relic, the temple reflects our own nature, our obsession with what lies beyond death, our craving for purpose, our ability to craft breathtaking wonders and taint them with sacrifice. It reveals that greatness casts long shadows, that civilizations can ascend to dazzling heights while concealing grim secrets beneath their foundations. Perhaps that's why we return, not just as tourists, but as seekers, drawn to unravel the feathered serpent's watchful gaze, not a threat, but a reminder of humanity's ancient drives and enduring questions.
Before words, before stories carved in stone, humans spoke through rhythm. Tens of thousands of years ago, long before writing or even spoken language took shape, early people crafted sound with purpose. A palm striking a hollow log, a stick rapping against rock, a heel pounding the earth. These weren't random noises, but the birth of something profound. Archaeological finds like 40,000-year-old bone percussion tools from European caves suggest these acts marked the genesis of rhythm. No melodies, no lyrics, just the primal pulse of intent, weaving magic from repetition. These early beats weren't mere pastimes. They were vital tools, extensions of the human spirit. In scattered tribes, a single drum's thud could signal peril, summon kin, or herald a rite. Imagine a forest clan. One resonant strike travels miles, announcing a hunt's success or a predator's approach. These weren't instruments in the modern sense. They were communal voices, heartbeats made audible. Hollowed gourds, stretched hides, or carved trunks, as found in African and Australian sites dating back 30,000 years, carried no formal name, but held deep meaning. Around flickering fires or in echoing caves, drumming wasn't observed, it was lived, binding groups in shared joy, mourning, or reverence. Rhythm became humanity's first collective language, expressing hope, fear, or celebration through patterned sound, uniting individuals into something greater, a tribe, a purpose, a shared pulse. In the cradle of early civilizations, drums transcended utility to become sacred conduits. Across continents, every culture forged its own rhythms, yet their purpose converged to connect with the invisible. In West Africa, among the Yoruba, the dundun drum, carved from a single tree and cloaked in goat hide, was more than wood and skin. It was a vessel for spirits, the tree's essence, the animal's life, and the artisan's skill. Played in communal circles, as ethnographic studies describe, these drums didn't accompany rituals. They were the ritual, channeling ancestors and deities. Some, like the hourglass-shaped talking drums, mimicked human speech through tonal shifts, carrying messages, births, deaths, warnings across vast distances, a pre-modern communication network, predating telegraphy by millennia.
In Mesoamerica, including Teotihuacan, drums like the huetwal
fashioned from wood and hide, pulsed through ceremonies, their beats aligning with the feathered serpent's rites, as seen in murals at sites like Cacaxtla. These weren't mere instruments, but divine voices, linking earth to sky, mortal to eternal. Drums gave rhythm to existence, marking time, invoking gods, and forging identity. Before flutes or strings, the drum was humanity's primal tool, its beat a universal thread weaving tribes together, from African savannas to Mesoamerican plazas, proving that even without words, rhythm spoke, and still speaks, of who we are. Across continents, drums were revered as more than instruments. They were living voices, pulsing with the essence of the divine. Among Native American tribes like the Lakota, the powwow drum, a large hide-covered frame struck by a circle of drummers, was the heartbeat of Mother Earth itself. Its resonant thrum, documented in ethnographic studies, anchored ceremonies to honor ancestors, summon healing, or guide souls to the afterlife. In Australia, Aboriginal peoples wielded clapsticks and rhythmic stomps during Dreamtime rituals, evoking a timeless creation era, as oral traditions recount. In the Arctic, Inuit shamans beat frame drums, their taut skins vibrating through long winters to induce trance states, seeking visions or communing with spirits, as recorded in 19th-century ethnographies. These weren't performances, but acts of survival and connection. Drumming was memory, identity, and unity. In sacred circles, from African savannas to Mesoamerican plazas, rhythms synchronized bodies and souls. No notation, no stage, just shared motion and intent. In Teotihuacan, the Huetwal drum's deep pulse, depicted in murals, accompanied feathered serpent rituals, linking mortal offerings to cosmic cycles. Wherever you stood, a distant drum signaled something holy, joy, grief, or divine presence, speaking what words could not. As societies grew into empires, drums evolved from sacred tools to instruments of control, order, and intimidation. In ancient warfare, they were the voice of strategy. In China's War States period, 475 to 221 BCE, massive bronze bow drums, as seen in Han Dynasty tombs, boomed across battlefields, directing troop movements, charges, retreats, or flanks with precise rhythms soldiers were trained to decode amid chaos. In Mesopotamia, Sumerian reliefs from 3000 BCE show frame drums heralding kings or rallying cities, their thunderous echoes unnerving foes as a form of psychological warfare.
The Romans used the tympanum, a small frame drum, in religious processions for deities like Cybele, its beat symbolizing imperial discipline, as noted in Latin texts. But the Ottoman Empire mastered the drum's terror. Their meter bands, among the earliest military orchestras, unleashed a cacophony of Kos kettle drums and Davul bass drums before battles, as 16th-century European accounts describe soldiers paralyzed by the relentless sound. Off the battlefield, drums asserted authority. In African kingdoms like Benin, court ensembles marked royal decrees. In Asian palaces, taiko drums announced emperors. And in the Americas, enslaved Africans used coded rhythms on congas to preserve culture and plan uprisings, as documented in plantation records. Whether signaling divine favor, military might, or resistance, the drum declared, "Power is here," and its rhythm,
commands. As civilizations diverged, so did their drumming traditions, each reflecting unique philosophies. In the East, drums became vessels of precision and spirituality. In India, the tabla, a pair of hand-played drums, emerged as a sacred language, its crisp tones weaving through devotional bhajans and classical ragas. Each stroke, called a bol, carried a syllabic name, forming a poetic dialogue mastered over decades, as treatises like the Natsha Shastra, circa 200 BCE, outline. The tabla player wasn't merely a musician, but a storyteller, their rhythms a conversation with the divine. In the West, drums leaned toward martial and theatrical grandeur. From Roman tympana to medieval European tabor drums, they evolved into orchestral roles, anchoring symphonies by the 18th century. Yet their roots remained in power, whether rallying armies or amplifying courtly splendor. In contrast, Eastern drums like Japan's taiko retained spiritual weight, their booming resonance, as seen in Shinto rituals, invoking kami spirits. From India's syllabic rhythms to Europe's structured beats, drums carried a shared pulse, adapting to each culture's soul while echoing humanity's universal heartbeat.
In Japan, the taiko, a colossal barrel drum, rose as a pillar of tradition, its thunderous voice resounding in Shinto observals, dramatic theater, and martial displays. Mastering taiko demanded more than dexterity. It called for embodied resolve, with performers adopting fighter-like poise, their strikes syncing body and sound. During Edo-era festivals, 1603 to 1868 CE, as historical records show, these drums reverberated through alpine passes, thought to repel malevolent forces and invite celestial visitors to the mortal plane. In Indonesia, the kendang, a versatile hand drum, steered the mesmerizing cascades of gamelan ensembles, directing performers in temple rites. Its layered patterns, interlocking like threads in a cosmic weave, mirrored the universe's balance, as Javanese court manuscripts describe, guiding dancers through cycles of harmony and renewal. In Europe, drums followed a more practical arc. Through the Middle Ages, they served as functional aids, directing foot soldiers, pacing drills, or imposing structure in daily life. Only in the Renaissance and Baroque periods did they step into refined composition, though often subdued, a low rumble beneath regal trumpets, or a subtle undercurrent in soaring basilicas, as seen in 17th-century scores by composers like Purcell. This split highlights two distinct visions. Eastern traditions viewed rhythm as an artistic and ethereal force, intertwined with breathwork, incantations, and introspection. Western ones treated it as a framework for action, a means to mobilize, advance, or quantify. Yet both recognized the drum's essence, to mold moments, set cadences, amplify ceremonies, and forge bonds beyond spoken tongues. Sacred or tactical, east or west, the drum stayed at the core, ever attentive, ever expressive.
From alpine shrines to tropical groves, from arid hearths to vaulted sanctuaries, drums have always marked the boundary where humanity touches the eternal. Long before formalized faiths, rhythm formed a primal dialogue, a method to invoke, heal, and elevate. In Yoruba practices, the bata drum
crafted with layered shells, served as a bridge to orishas and forebearers, its players acting as intermediaries rather than entertainers. Patterns encoded invocations, beckoning deities to join the earthly dance, each thump a guided summons. In Hinduism, the damaru, an hourglass drum clutched by Shiva as Nataraja, embodies the universe's cadence, as Vedic hymns circa 1500 BCE attest. It strikes, tracing creation from nothingness to form, destruction to rebirth. In Buddhism, the mokugyo fish-shaped drum punctuates sutra recitations and contemplative sessions, its gentle taps anchoring the mind to the now, a subtle cue for returning to awareness amid wandering thoughts. Across the Americas, indigenous groups employ water drums or framed hides in vision journeys, purification rites, and restorative circles, their steady cadence evoking the womb's rhythm to induce altered states or link with lineage spirits. In Christianity, where beats were sometimes restrained, drums surfaced in gospel expressions, especially in African American congregations, where their foundational throb fueled exaltations, echoing resilience, aspiration, and sacred cadence in every soul's journey. Whatever the creed, observance, or invoked presence, the drum endures not as adornment, but as a conduit for vitality, focus, and unspoken wonders. When language falters in devotion, rhythm persists, and the eternal always attends. For millennia, drums stood alone, each a singular entity with its own voice and role. But amid the clamor of industrialization, percussion reinvented itself. In workshops, avenues, and concert venues, scattered elements converged. By the early 1900s, what was once a sprawl of individual pieces, bass, snare, cymbals, woodblocks, became a cohesive array, the drum kit.
This innovation stemmed from practicality. In the 1890s, touring bands and vaudeville troupes needed multiple drummers for varied effects, but cramped stages and slim funds demanded efficiency. Pioneers like George B. Stone rigged pedals and racks to consolidate tools. In 1910, William F. Ludwig patented the first reliable bass drum pedal, transforming the setup into a one-person symphony, as U.S. patent records confirm. What began as a workaround birthed a revolution, blending traditions into a new heartbeat for the machine age. The drum kit's invention transformed percussion into a one-person orchestra. With William F. Ludwig's 1910 bass drum pedal, as documented in U.S. patent records, a drummer could now pound a massive drum with one foot, freeing hands to weave intricate patterns. By the 1920s, kits expanded with hi-hats, toms, and cymbals, as seen in early jazz setups, creating a versatile rig that echoed an entire percussion section from a single seat. A true drummer's command center. Jazz ignited this innovation in New Orleans' smoky haunts and Chicago's lively clubs. Drummers like Baby Dodds and Gene Krupa didn't just mark time, they sculpted it with syncopated swings and expressive flourishes, making the kit a narrative voice. By the 1960s, rock amplified this power. Kits grew bolder, double bass pedals, arrays of toms and shimmering crash cymbals as drummers like John Bonham and Ginger Baker pushed physical and creative boundaries, their thunder driving bands like Led Zeppelin. No longer in the shadows, the drummer became the engine of sound.
Today, from gospel choirs to EDM festivals, punk garages to global arenas, the drum kit remains indispensable. Even with digital pads and programmable beats, the tactile intensity of sticks on skin, sweat on brows endures, a fusion of ancient pulse and modern flair, where one player channels a chorus of rhythms. Drums speak in myriad tongues, each shaped by the hands, materials, and stories of its people. In West Africa, the djembe, carved from a single log and topped with goatskin, delivers sharp slaps and resonant bass, a living dialogue for Ashanti or Mandinka gatherings, as ethnographic records note. Paired with the dundun, it anchors communal dances, linking spirits, ancestors, and the living in a rhythmic conversation.
In the Middle East, the goblet-shaped darbuka, crafted from clay or metal, cuts through Arabic maqam and belly dance with crisp, rapid-fire beats, demanding precision from players and motion from audiences, as seen in Ottoman-era music manuals. In the Caribbean and Latin America, drums like the conga, bongo, and timbales weave African, indigenous, and European threads. Cuba's bata drums, sacred to Santeria, speak directly to orishas, their tones a divine dialect, while Brazil's surdo and cuica propel samba's joyous defiance through carnival streets, as documented in Afro-Brazilian studies. In Mesoamerica, Teotihuacan's huehuetel drums, depicted in murals, pulsed through feathered serpent rituals, tying earthly offerings to cosmic cycles. In India, the mridangam and tabla reign in Carnatic and Hindustani traditions, tuned to melodic pitches, blurring rhythm and song. Each stroke, guided by syllabic bowls, carries centuries of precision, as outlined in the Natya Shastra, circa 200 BCE. The frame drum, among humanity's oldest, spans cultures, from Persia's daf to Ireland's bodhran, from Siberian shamanic tools to Moroccan bendir. Its simple form, proving sanctity, need not be complex. Each drum embodies its people's geography, history, and soul, uniting dance, healing, rebellion, or worship in a universal pulse that echoes across the earth. As the 20th century waned, the drum's timbre shifted, not in cadence, but in essence. The calloused hands and wooden sticks began to share space with silicon and code. The digital drum era emerged, born in the 1970s with devices like the Roland CR78 and Pollard Syndrum, early analog machines crafting rudimentary beats. Initially stiff and mechanical, they offered something new, unwavering precision and boundless potential. Musicians embraced this shift. The Roland TR-808, launched in 1980, revolutionized music with its deep kicks and snappy snares, shaping hip-hop, techno, and pop, as seen in tracks by Afrika Bambaataa. Digital pads and software, like MIDI-triggered kits by the 1990s, allowed infinite soundscapes, yet the live drum kit's visceral energy, its sweat, its strike, remains unmatched. From ancient hide to modern circuits, the drum evolves, carrying humanity's rhythm into new frontiers. In 1980, Roland's TR-808 drum machine unleashed a sonic revolution. Its deep, resonant kicks and sizzling snares, crafted through analog synthesis, birthing genres like hip-hop, techno, and trap, as seen in tracks by Run DMC and Kraftwerk. Unlike earlier machines mimicking acoustic drums, the 808 forged new sonic landscapes. By the 1990s, electronic kits like Roland's V-drums allowed players to trigger countless sampled or synthesized tones, while striking pads, enabling silent practice and instant sound swaps, as music tech journals note. Digital audio workstations like Ableton Live and Logic Pro further transformed rhythm, letting bedroom producers layer kicks, snares, and hi-hats into intricate sonic tapestries via MIDI, standardized in 1983. Fears that machines would eclipse human drummers proved unfounded. Instead, a fusion emerged. Acoustic players incorporated triggers, blending live hits with digital samples, while producers wove organic beats with programmed grooves. From sampled African djembe to warped taiko, digital tools breathed new life into ancient rhythms, electrifying dance floors worldwide. The medium evolved, but the mission endured: to stir bodies, sculpt moments, and give voice to silence. Across millennia, empires, and innovations, the drum remains humanity's oldest, most enduring language. From Teotihuacan's Huehuetl, pulsing through feathered serpent rites, to modern stadiums, drums transcend music to forge connection to self, community, and the cosmos. In Diné, Navajo ceremonies, handpans weave hypnotic tones, blending ancient reverence with modern resonance, as documented in contemporary ethnographies. Indigenous groups preserve sacred beats against cultural erasure, while street performers and children banging kitchen pots tap into instinctual joy. Drums have marched with monarchs, rallied rebels, and echoed in temples and subway stations. They mourn in grief, rejoice in triumph, and mark the quiet spaces where identity takes root. Before birth, we hear our mother's heartbeat, a primal cadence we chase lifelong. This universal pulse bypasses words, speaking directly to bone and blood. Even AI, now crafting rhythms, can't replicate the soul of an imperfect beat. The drum's power lies not in precision, but in feeling, an anchor in time, uniting us in shared presence. From Yoruba bata to Irish bodhran, from ancient fires to digital studios, the drum endures, not as a relic, but as proof we were born to move, listen, and feel together. As long as humans breathe, its rhythm will never fade.
Before Manhattan's skyline became a jagged forest of steel, it was a low canvas of shadow, shaped not by ambition, but by gravity's firm hand. In the early 1800s, New York City huddled at the island's southern tip, a dense weave of brick row houses, timber shops, and rutted dirt lanes, as city maps from 1811 show. Structures rarely rose beyond 5 stories, not for lack of vision, but because load-bearing masonry walls, reliant on stone and brick, buckled under greater height. Each added floor demanded thicker bases, escalating costs and risks, as engineering texts of the era note. Like the drum's primal beat, these buildings marked time and place, their modest forms a rhythm of human limits striving against the Earth's pull. In early 19th century Manhattan, the weight of ambition bowed to the laws of physics. Buildings relied on load-bearing masonry, their walls thickening at the base to carry upper floors, eating into interior space and demanding massive foundations, as architectural records from the 1800s detail.
Taller structures meant heavier, costlier construction, so the city expanded outward, guided by the 1811 Commissioner's Plan, a visionary grid of numbered streets stretching north from Houston Street, as city archives confirm. Beneath this ordered sprawl lay Manhattan's secret strength, a bedrock of schist, a dense granite layer formed millions of years ago, waiting to anchor future giants. Life pulsed vibrantly at street level. The harbor buzzed with trade, ships crowded the docks, and hooves clattered on muddy lanes. By the 1830s, immigration fueled growth, with New York's population nearing 200,000 per census data. Yet the skyline remained modest, hugging the earth. Only church spires dared to pierce the sky, none more striking than Trinity Church, whose steeple soared 281 feet, the city's tallest mark, symbolizing faith over commerce. The heavens were still out of reach, but the island thrummed with potential, its bedrock a silent promise of heights to come.
For centuries, gravity ruled Manhattan's silhouette, tethering buildings to modest heights. But in the mid-19th century, two innovations shattered these limits, redefining what a city could be. The first arrived in 1854, when Elisha Bootis unveiled his safety elevator at New York's Crystal Palace exhibition. Standing on a platform hoisted high, he had the ropes severed, yet his mechanism locked the lift in place, stunning onlookers, as contemporary accounts in Scientific American describe. Suddenly, climbing stairs was obsolete. Upper floors, once shunned as cheap attic spaces, became prized for their views and prestige, making verticality profitable. The second breakthrough was structural, steel frame construction. By the 1880s, engineers pioneered skeletons of steel beams, allowing exterior walls to serve as lightweight curtains rather than load-bearing anchors. The Home Insurance Building in Chicago, 1885, often cited as the first skyscraper, proved the method's potential per architectural histories. Steel freed architects from the tyranny of thick walls, enabling height limited only by the frame's strength. Manhattan, with its unyielding schist bedrock and booming commerce, was the ideal stage. Its confined geography, 13 miles long, 2 miles wide, pushed builders skyward, while its role as a financial hub drove banks and publishers to claim the clouds. By the late 19th century, Manhattan rejected sprawling horizons for vertical dreams. The elevator made heights accessible, steel made them feasible. Together, they transformed the city into a canvas for aspiration. The race upward began in earnest during the 1890s. The New York World Building, erected in 1890 for Joseph Pulitzer's media empire, climbed 20 stories to 349 feet, briefly claiming the title of the world's tallest office structure, as city records note. By 1899, the Park Row Building surpassed it, rising 391 feet with 31 floors, its tower a bold declaration of progress. Each new edifice was more than bricks and beams. It was a manifesto. To build higher was to proclaim wealth, vision, and a stake in the future. Manhattan's skyline became a battleground of ambition, its steel giants sprouting as testaments to a city no longer bound by the Earth's pull, but reaching relentlessly toward the stars.
In 1908, the Singer Building pierced Manhattan's skyline at 612 feet, eclipsing Trinity Church's 281-foot spire, which had reigned since 1846, as city records confirm. Yet its triumph was fleeting. By 1913, the Woolworth Building, designed by Cass Gilbert and bankrolled by retail titan Frank W. Woolworth, soared to 792 feet, across 57 stories. Its neo-Gothic elegance, spired arches and gargoyles inspired by Beaux-Arts grandeur, earned it the nickname Cathedral of Commerce, a testament to America's burgeoning might, as architectural journals note. This wasn't mere construction, it was corporate warfare. Each tower was a bold advertisement, a brand etched into the heavens. Companies and magnates vied to claim the tallest silhouette, their names immortalized in steel and headlines. Beneath this spectacle, the rhythm of progress pulsed relentlessly. Steam-powered excavators clawed into Manhattan's schist bedrock. Riveters hammered through sleepless nights, and workers, many immigrants, balanced on beams hundreds of feet up, tethered only by courage. The skyline wasn't a dream anymore. It was a tangible force, rising with every clang of iron. The 1920s brought a new cadence to Manhattan's ascent. The Jazz Age infused architecture with flair, birthing the Art Deco movement, buildings that didn't just climb, but captivated with style. The Chrysler Building, completed in 1930 at 1,046 feet, briefly held the world's tallest title. Commissioned by automotive mogul Walter Chrysler, its design by William Van Allen was a masterpiece. A stainless steel spire, secretly assembled and raised in a single night, gleamed like a beacon, while eagle gargoyles, modeled after car hood ornaments, guarded its setbacks, as construction logs detail. With its sleek curves and geometric motifs, the Chrysler didn't just touch the sky, it enchanted it.
Yet its reign was short. In 1931, the Empire State Building, designed by Shreve, Lamb and Harmon, soared to 1,250 feet, claiming the crown for nearly 4 decades. Built in a staggering 410 days during the Great Depression's depths, with 3,400 workers braving harsh conditions, it stood as a defiant symbol of resilience per project records. Art Deco's blend of grace and grit, streamlined yet bold, mythic yet modern, captured the era's contradictions. These weren't mere offices, but sculpted beacons, glowing at night with promise. Tycoons like Woolworth and Chrysler sought more than wealth. They craved a legacy etched in Manhattan's skyline, a permanent mark on history. Post-World War II, Manhattan's skyline shifted gears. As America emerged as a superpower, New York's towers traded ornate spires for sleek efficiency. The 1952 United Nations headquarters, designed by a global team led by Wallace Harrison, rose along the East River, a glass slab flanked by marble wings, embodying the international style's Bauhaus-inspired minimalism, as seen in architectural plans. These towers weren't cathedrals or palaces, but machines for work, clean, precise, and global. Manhattan's skyline, once a symphony of Art Deco flourish, now spoke in the language of corporate power, its straight lines and shimmering facades heralding a city that no longer dreamed of the sky, but commanded it.
The post-war skyline of Manhattan embraced a stark new aesthetic, defined by the international style's precision and austerity.
The Seagram Building, completed in 1958 and designed by Ludwig Mies van der Rohe with Philip Johnson, stood as a pinnacle of this shift. Its bronze-tinted glass, meticulous grid, and open plaza, detailed in architectural records, projected not ornate grandeur, but disciplined authority. This was corporate architecture at its zenith, sleek, commanding, and unadorned. As Midtown burgeoned into America's corporate heart, hosting banks, media giants, and law firms, skyscrapers competed not for elegance, but for dominance, square footage, prime location, and a commanding presence on the horizon. Gone were the Art Deco flourishes. In their place rose reflective glass towers, silent giants mirroring Wall Street's ambitions and the clouds above. These structures spoke of a nation driven by expansion, efficiency, and modernity, their minimalist facades reshaping urban identities worldwide. Yet, beneath their restraint, they remained symbols, whispering power with quiet, unyielding strength. By the late 1960s, Manhattan's skyline was a vertical symphony, but it hungered for a bolder crescendo. At the island's south tip, the World Trade Center emerged, a pair of towers unlike any before. Designed by Minoru Yamasaki for the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, the Twin Towers, completed in 1973, soared to 1,368 feet, North Tower, including its antenna, dwarfing all predecessors. Their minimalist design, vertical aluminum ribs, no setbacks, eschewed ornament for sheer scale, as construction documents detail. Conceived as a nexus for global trade, they embodied an ideological vision, a monument to capitalism and connectivity. Building them was a feat of engineering audacity. Construction, spanning 1966 to 1973, required demolishing Radio Row, a vibrant neighborhood, and pioneering the slurry wall method to anchor foundations in the Hudson River's soft bed, as engineering journals note. Critics decried their boxy austerity, longing for the Chrysler's elegance or the Empire State's taper. But to many, the towers were pure presence, bold, unyielding pillars of confidence. They drew millions to their observation decks and windows on the World Restaurant, anchoring Lower Manhattan with symmetry and gravitas. For nearly 3 decades, the Twin Towers stood as global emblems of commerce, unity, and American resolve, their iconic silhouette unmatched even as taller structures rose elsewhere. On September 11, 2001, Manhattan's skyline was irrevocably altered, not by cranes or steel, but by fire and devastation. In under 2 hours, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center crumbled into ash and twisted metal, claiming thousands of lives. The attack, documented in global media, targeted more than buildings. It struck at symbols, commerce, modernity, aspiration. For decades, the towers had defined Lower Manhattan, their sleek forms a visual shorthand for New York's spirit. Now their absence left a void, raw and smoldering. Photographs of the skyline felt incomplete, a fractured silhouette mirroring a wounded city. Where height and radiance once stood, only emptiness remained, a silent scar that echoed across the world. On September 11, 2001, Manhattan's iconic silhouette shattered. The Twin Towers' collapse left a smoldering void at the city's southern edge, known as Ground Zero, where global commerce once pulsed. For the first time in a century, New York didn't build upward. It grieved. Steelworkers, firefighters, and volunteers sifted through debris, not to construct, but to recover, as contemporary accounts detail. The clang of progress gave way to a somber hush. A city paused in collective sorrow. Yet, even in loss, Manhattan's gaze tilted skyward. Debates over rebuilding swirled, fraught, emotional, political. Could anything replace the towers without erasing their memory? For years, the scarred site remained untouched, a hallowed wound. But slowly, plans took shape, cranes returned, and steel rose, not to forget, but to reimagine. The skyline, once a symbol of ambition, became a tapestry of triumph and tragedy, woven with resilience. In 2003, architect Daniel Libeskind's master plan for the World Trade Center site was chosen, blending commerce, memory, and renewal, as Port Authority records note. At its core stood One World Trade Center, initially dubbed the Freedom Tower, designed by David Childs of Skidmore, Owings, and Merrill. Rising from Ground Zero's northwest corner, it reached 1,776 feet, including its spire, a deliberate nod to America's founding year, per project documentation. Construction began in 2006, employing a 185,000-ton steel frame and a concrete core for resilience, and opened in 2014. Its prismatic glass facade shifts with the sky, gleaming, dimming, or vanishing, embodying reflection in both form and spirit, a quiet defiance against loss. In 2011, the 9/11 Memorial opened, designed by Michael Arad and Peter Walker. Two vast voids mark the Twin Towers' footprints, their cascading waterfalls framed by bronze panels bearing the names of the fallen, as memorial archives describe. More than a monument, it's a cornerstone of the city's soul, grounding the skyline in remembrance. Additional towers, 3 WTC, 4 WTC, and 7 WTC, rose nearby, their sleek glass forms purposeful and modern. Together, they didn't merely rebuild, but redefined New York, honoring the past while forging a future, a testament to a city that rises even when struck down. Today, Manhattan's skyline is a living emblem of ambition, resilience, and the American spirit. Its silhouette, instantly recognizable in 5 lines, is etched into global culture, history, and memory. It tells of fearless ironworkers, visionary architects, and immigrants who shaped it through booms, busts, and wounds. Yet the skyline never rests. In recent years, it has stretched higher, not in lower Manhattan, but along Midtown's Billionaires Row. Towers like 432 Park Avenue, 2015, 1,396 feet, Central Park Tower, 2020, 1,550 feet, and 11 West 57th Street, 2021, 1,428 feet, rise as slender needles, their high-strength concrete cores and tuned mass dampers defying wind and gravity, as engineering reports detail. Critics see them as symbols of wealth disparity, others
view them as feats of human ingenuity. Further west, Hudson Yards has transformed former rail yards into a gleaming neighborhood since 2019, with towers like 30 Hudson Yards hosting corporate giants and public art like The Vessel, per city planning records. The skyline now extends westward, adapting to new needs while holding its past close. The Empire State Building's nightly glow, Chrysler's sunrise shimmer, and One World Trade Center's solemn stance endure, weaving memory into progress. More than any monument, this skyline defines New York, a mirror of millions, a canvas of dreams, where the sky is not a limit, but a beginning, forever reaching for the next story.